my mom says, no matter how much darkness in the world there is in the world, there's always a tiny little burst of light.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and really appreciate your time, and really looking forward to hearing your story because I think it's an inspiring one for viewers. But I want to start by, if you could just tell us your name, where are you from, and a little bit about your early childhood and what you remember of it.
Yes, thank you for letting me join your channel. My name is Obina Ifeanyichukwu Ekwenife. I'm originally from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, and my childhood was very interesting. I was born October 14th, 1983, and 3 months after I was born, I was diagnosed with sickle cell. So this was a very hard pill to swallow. The doctor said it was inherited and they don't have a cure for it right now. But as I got older, I was able to learn from the doctors that they were able to cure it using a bone marrow transplant. And how was it?
It's fine. So now, coming from Nigeria, how did it, you said your mom and your parents had a very difficult time, accepting and hearing, that type of a diagnosis. How did you end up here in the States?
At that time, after I was diagnosed with sickle cell, only real memory was for me being in and out of the hospital. I could remember when I was about 4 or 5. At the time, I had seizures. I kept having seizures and seizures. My mom took me to the hospital. By the time she took me to the hospital, the seizure had stopped. So I was having that for about 2 to 3 years until I then had a stroke. And I think this was around September of 1998.
And how old were you around that time?
I was 5 or 6, I believe. And so I had 4 strokes in 1 year.
Wow.
And at that point, I was confined to a wheelchair that part of my life. And arriving at America, I can vaguely remember the doctor telling my mom, having this conversation with my mom, that they've done everything that they can do for me in Nigeria. And they were gonna charter a flight, an emergency flight to America for me. So at that age, I really didn't understand what that meant. The next thing I know, I'm being put on a plane in Nigeria. I can remember it's my mom, my dad, me, and my sisters, and we were barely old enough to talk, let alone comprehend what was going on. And so by the time I knew it, next thing I know, I was in America. And a lot of people like to say that, oh, I walked into America. I, for one, am proud to say I got rolled into America. And I got rolled into America August 2nd, 1990. I strictly remember that day because from the airplane, I was transferred into an ambulance that took me straight to Children's Hospital. And I was admitted into the hospital. I remember seeing a bunch of doctors come towards the ambulance, get me out, and took me into the hospital.
So here you are in the hospital. You're very young, between 7 and 10 years old. You're experiencing, first of all, a new life in the U.S. from Nigeria. And what other memorable experiences or impactful experiences can you go back and think about? Tell us about.
The doctor came in on this one day. Came in like a judge comes into a court to give a verdict. Verdict is not good. It seems like you'll never ever be able to walk again. I'd be able to hang out with my friends. Would I be able to go around with family? Will they accept me? Just things like that. I couldn't believe it myself, but I walked out of the hospital by myself. Literally walked out of the hospital by myself, and I was speechless. I can't remember if it was. I stayed in there for like 3 years. At this point, I can't remember if it was 3 years on and off, but I remember that I was in there for a total of 3 years.
Wow, what an amazing story. I mean, you being able to walk out of the hospital with no, against all odds, against the doctors, charts and beliefs and tests, you were able to prove them wrong. And I think a lot of times, the doctors a lot of times do want to be proven kind of wrong, and you be able to do things that's outside of kind of the science of it all. So that's awesome. Now that you've left the hospital and everything, it's kind of starting a new life, right? It's a completely new environment for you. How did you find growing up? People tell you had sickle cell or another disability. Were you feel like you were ever treated differently, or felt like it was harder on you than other kids?
After walking out of the hospital and a couple of weeks have gone by, I started really noticing the culture shock of getting to America and getting to experience America. Coming from Nigeria, I really didn't have time being in the hospital to have any culture shock. But coming into America, starting school, being around more people, I really started to be more insecure, and just because of the way I walked. With me, it was, my disability was an outward disability. Mm-hmm. Even though my disease, you didn't know that I had it, but my disability was outward.
And how would you describe that outward disability?
Like, it was obvious that I walked with a limp. At that time, I still had my arm up here. It still was paralyzed to an extent. Mm. And so just going through physical therapy and kind of physical therapy, doctor's appointments and everything, we started to get better, but the limp was still noticeable. And it was when I started school at a very young age, I think about 8 or 9, kids would look at me and they'll make fun of me for walking with a limp. Time just kind of acclimating myself or infusing myself into the culture, into an American life was pretty difficult for me because I didn't speak a lick of English. I wasn't able to comprehend what the teachers were telling me.
In what ways does you feel like your disability may affect you as a person? Like, what impact do you think that's really had on you?
I've literally lived with this disability all my life. A child, you look for that. Are they gonna accept me? Am I gonna be initiated into the group? Am I gonna have friends that will understand what I'm going through? You're very hesitant to tell people that this is what you're going through, this is what you have at a young age, because you always want to be the star, and you always want to be looked at as, oh, I can take him, he's my friend, you get to pick him first. You always get looked at like that. And at around that age, I was very introverted. And I could only describe myself at that age as a follower. Whatever is cool, whatever is hip, I want to be part of it. So, yeah. It looks like you're only going to be able to be a housekeeper or a janitor. Those are the only two jobs that we can see you doing in life. And again, the emotions from when I was talking to the doctor came flooding back like a river. And in my mind, I'm once again asking those questions of, how am I going to be able to function in life if I don't have a job? How am I going to be able to support my family if I'm not making X amount of money or doing what I love to do? If this is going to be the projected judgment that is placed on me, I'm not sure what to do at this point. And then turning to God, I asked God, please help me through this. Show me what you want me to do.
Well, it must be very difficult to hear someone portraying your life of what you're going to be in the future and not giving you any real hope, it seemed. What did that conversation with that psychologist do to you? How did you respond to that mentally? Did it drive you to think one way or another?
Yeah. Honestly, at first, after having the conversation, I did feel defeated. I did feel that I really had no worth. I felt very negative towards the world. I felt very hurt, but also I knew that God is always by my side. So going back to God, I asked them to really just give me the spirit and the courage to overcome and prevail over what their projective judgment was placed into a special need.
So childhood was not easy, obviously, from what you shared with us. It was definitely, sounds like a really challenging childhood, but you had, spots and lights of inspiration there, right? We talked about. You said that a lot of that was temporary.
Yeah.
Right? So you must have had dreams, you must have had aspirations, life must have gotten better, right? Life must have changed somewhat. I'm assuming the bullying stopped.
Yes.
I'm assuming life has changed for you. So tell us more about your dreams, what you've become, what you're still dreaming about, what you've accomplished. I heard earlier you talked about a degree, so talk to us about some of those things.
Yeah.